Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres to keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Mark Peck on the line, and he's Director of Business Development over at Rocket Dollar. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Adam. Big fan of what you're doing at Money Matters. Really love the podcast and the book, and excited to join you.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And I'm excited to get into what you're doing over at Rocket Dollar. So interesting things going on over there. But before we do that, let's go a little bit further into your background. So how did you get started in your career in business?
Yeah, I really got my start as an investor and my interest in financial services from my grandmother. She was one of the first female stockbrokers back in the 50s and 60s. And,
wow.
it was, not a lot of kids really realize just how cool their family can be when it comes down to it. But she got me, really interested in investing and understanding, really how money matters. And that got me kicked off in that direction. Following school and completing a bachelor's degree in economics, I had the opportunity to work for a family office and was able to really sort of transition that passion into investing in a few different ways. Learned a ton from that group. Most importantly, just about how valuable early stage investing is and how investing in startups and, early stage companies can really offer the returns that a lot of, regular folks don't get just through the S&P 500.
Man, that's awesome. And I love your story. I do not hear, and it makes sense because you said she was one of the very first. I very rarely hear somebody say they were inspired by grandma to go into finance. That's awesome. One of the first stockbrokers. Kudos there. That's amazing. That being said, there's some younger entrepreneurs that are maybe just getting started, or they're going to college, or they're just getting out of college, and they're thinking about making a career in finance or financial services. Now, they're just getting started out. What kind of things would you tell them on kind of finding their path?
Yeah, well, I think what can often be intimidating, for an entrepreneur, especially they're kicking off their own business, is a lot of those investor meetings and transitioning from just maybe creating a product or an idea, in their garage with some friends to actually getting on the road and pitching to an audience like a family office. And, I again was fortunate to work for a really open-minded group, though our team, we were not technologists and we didn't necessarily, work day to day in the fintech space. With an open mind and a good, communication style, we're able to give comfort and ease to those entrepreneurs and vice versa for them, where as long as you can explain your idea coherently and thoroughly and really address that market opportunity and why it matters, you'll find those investor conversations a lot easier. And I was the beneficiary of seeing that from both sides, to start my career.
And that's awesome. Let's switch it up a bit. I want to get into what you're doing over at Rocket Dollar. So tell us a little bit more about the business, please.
Yeah, so to piggyback on this idea of early stage investing and really what we would call alternative asset investing, which is essentially anything beyond, market traded stocks and bonds. The team at Rocket Dollar has launched a product a few years ago that helps folks unlock their retirement accounts and invest in cool and interesting things that they actually care about. And so as opposed to your IRA or 401k, being confined to just a small set of mutual funds or something of that nature, we let you take those tax advantage dollars and invest in interesting things like real estate, like early stage investment in a startup, digital assets, cryptocurrencies, and a wide spectrum of really specific and engaging asset classes that just help people, empower their dollars in a way that they traditionally haven't been able to do so.
And so that being, I think this is a big trend, and I want you to go a little bit further in it because this started once upon a time as like social investing, and then there were all these other things and niches, and now this is, to me, it's kind of just putting the lens on where, it's increasing the focus of the lens even more in terms of where you want to allocate your dollars. Can you talk about any trends that you're noticing in your space? Because I think it's super interesting.
Yeah, and that's exactly what is so great about the product is it lets you put that lens on your specific edge, right? So I would say that, the asset class I already touched on a little bit continue to see momentum, whether you're, real estate and physically asset focused or interested in really, high growth tech opportunities, it often depends a lot on our customer's background, right? So for instance, if our client is, a healthcare professional and works in the biopharmaceutical world, I mean, they are specifically equipped to invest in those kinds of startups, for instance, where I'm not able to do so because they know so much more about the space. And so they're able to give themselves an edge investing what they know best. Conversely, we've seen a ton of growth in digital assets and cryptocurrencies, things like that, and some other frontier markets, whether it's hemp farms and cannabis-focused investments. Everybody's able to bring sort of their expertise to the table and leverage it.
That's awesome. There's some people listening right now and they're like, okay, Rocket Dollar sounds interesting. What kind of investors are right for the platform?
Well, there is some personal homework that goes into it, right? So as opposed to a turnkey solution, like you might see on your phone these days from Robinhood or something like that, where it's really, really simple to flip the switch. We try to make it easier at Rocket Dollar, but with retirement accounts, there is a more conscientious and deliberate sort of path required, right? So it's not something to be taken lightly. You are taking your, lifetime savings, if you will, for a lot of people and investing in something that's non-traditional. And so you want to be really deliberate about that path. You want to do a lot of research, make sure you really understand what you're engaging, because at the end of the day in this space, the great thing is you're empowered to make those choices as a client, but when you have that power, the responsibility sits with you as well. We're not giving you advice like a wealth manager would typically. We're simply giving you that tool to unlock your dollars and allocate them to the private investment that you choose. So it's important that you feel comfortable from start to finish in what you're doing.
Speaking of from start to finish, could you take us through, because there's some people also listening that are like, okay, this sounds interesting, and they've wanted to invest in, let's just say, in alternatives or invest more directly. What does it look like to set up an account and to get started with Rocket Dollar, just so they have a feel for the process?
Yeah, well, the good news here is we're not reinventing the wheel in that we're opening the same kind of IRA or 401k you could have, at Schwab or Fidelity. And so those guidelines and rules are applied the same way by the IRS. So we get you started in just a few minutes on our website. It's an all online process. And from there, Rocket Dollar's job really comes in there to help, create a very flexible tool for you to use to invest. And so it allows you to then, use that IRA to invest on a crowdfunding site through a local real estate syndicate or through a direct transaction. And you've got the toolkit there, and that's what Rocket Dollar is doing to get you set up. And so there's a few different ways to get dollars in the door, which is a big part of retirement savings, either through fresh contributions where you defer income for that tax year in question, or for a lot of people rolling over an old 401k or IRA they have from an employer. So you left an old job, you want to start a new Rocket Dollar account here. We help you start that IRA in just a few minutes, roll over the old dollars from the 401k, and then give you the tool to go out and make that investment that you're interested in.
Are there any minimums or anything else like that they should know about?
We don't charge minimums, but which is common for our space is that our fees are, a few $100s to get started and a few $100s a year to maintain the account. And so at a certain point, there is just a cost-benefit analysis that needs to be done on how much you have available to invest. So if you're truly just getting started with your first retirement account and maybe just contributing a few $100, out of your paycheck every month or something like that, this might not be the right time to follow self-directed because it just can be a little bit more costly, not just in terms of dollars, but in time. But for most people, we're seeing a lot of accounts being opened with, $10,000 to $20,000 worth of assets coming in cash and then being spread across, a portfolio of diverse alternatives.
That's awesome. So, Mark, if somebody is listening to this and they do want more information on Rocket Dollar, what's the best way for them to follow up?
So we've got a team email box at info@rocketdollar.com, as well as our website's got a ton of information on it, which is just www.rocketdollar.com. My name is Mark Peck. Happy to take a call or an email as well. And my direct email is mark.peck@rocketdollar.com.
Fantastic. So Mark, hey, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background and also all the great work you're doing over at Rocket Dollar to increase the investment options of investors out there. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store, do all those great things we do to support our podcasters. I really do appreciate it. And Mark, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Adam. My pleasure.